Shana Tova. Like me, your phone and email has probably been filled with breaking news from Israel ever since October 7th. But you may have missed this story that came out of northern Israel a little over a month ago. The headline read, "Rare Bronze Age Ancient Jar Broken by 4-year-old at Israeli Museum." It happened that curious 4-year-old Ariel Geller was visiting the Hecht Museum in Haifa with his family. The museum is known for letting visitors get close up with its artifacts for hands-on history lessons. Ariel saw a pristine, intact, nearly 4,000-year-old large ceramic jar that was bigger than him in its stand. And he climbed up to the top of this relic in order to peer down to see what was inside. Well, you can guess what happened next. The jug fell over with Ariel on top, and it smashed to pieces. This priceless jug, which dated to the time of our biblical ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, was now just a pile of shards. Ariel's family had driven down to visit the museum from their home in Nehariya, up north, which is only 10 kilometers from the border with Lebanon. The Gellers were seeking a respite, an opportunity that would take their children away from the continual missiles and red alerts, living so close to the ongoing Hezbollah attacks for just a day. When Ariel's father heard the crash in the museum, at that precise moment, he recounted that he said a prayer, hoping beyond hope that it wasn't his child. But alas, it was. The family feared a lawsuit or a huge payout. How could you replace a piece of Israel's biblical archaeological history? Thankfully, when the museum checked the video cameras and saw that this was not a case of vandalism, simply an accident caused by a curious child, the concern was gone. The family was assured that the museum's insurance would cover the damage and any repair. It so happened that a week later, Ariel and his family were invited back to the museum to observe the careful process of restoring the ancient ceramic jug, piece by piece, like a jigsaw puzzle. They even let Ariel participate, helping to put a few pieces back together. As the restoration was completed just a week ago, the restorers intentionally left a missing piece. The jug was returned to its spot with a sturdier base this time. But now the jug was different. There were lines where it was broken. Its cracks had become visible, and the empty space reflecting the loss that it had sustained. This is a different Rosh Hashanah. Yes, today we joyously gather to celebrate the beginning of a new year with our prayers for renewal, to begin again, and hopeful for the year that is to come. Our prayers say, Hayom Harat Olam, today is the birthday of the world, a time when new opportunities are born. We dip our challah in honey to celebrate with gratitude the sweetness in our lives and the hope that begins our new year. And yet, ever since this horrific attack on Israel on October 7th and the ensuing 362 days, ever since the continuing rise of anti-Semitism across the globe, including here in Cleveland, we are different. Our campuses are different. Our world is different. Like that ancient jar in the museum, there have been too many days this past year that we've been shattered, when our hearts have been broken to pieces. We return this new year with our cracks visible and with missing pieces, most especially those 101 hostages still in captivity in Gaza. We gather today when Israel is under attack and at war, when our college students are on edge, and when we are living in a world that is fractured and broken, where evil has shown its face. We proclaim our new year with the shofar, which we just heard. It is our most beloved Jewish musical instrument. Its first appearance in the Torah is at Mount Sinai, blasting with the giving of the Ten Commandments. Its jubilant notes rang out at the Kotel in Jerusalem at the end of the miraculous Six-Day War in 1967. The shofar is blown at our highest moments in Jewish history and at our most dire. A red alert, a call to action, a celebratory note. And traditionally, we are waiting for our final redemption when there will be one final shofar note heard around the world, when lasting peace will be attained, unifying our people and our world. May that be very soon. The actual mitzvah or obligation is not to blow the shofar, but rather to hear it, like we just did. To listen to the voice of the shofar. Lishmoa kol shofar is what the blessing says, to hear the call of the shofar. Rabbi Nachman teaches that each shofar has a unique voice, that it has the power to sound the inner voice within our souls. The shofar reminds us who truly we are and who we are meant to be. The shofar calls us by articulating hope, inspiration, strength, and determination. And I think of all those voices that have been silenced this year, the voices of the hostages in captivity. What do they call out for us to do? In our Torah reading tomorrow, we read the Akedah, the story of the binding of Isaac. God asked Abraham for the ultimate sacrifice, his son. In response to this, Abraham immediately answers without hesitation with this word, Hineni, here I am ready. Thankfully, know the story that the angel stops Abraham in motion. The ram whose horn we blow today is bound in his place. There are many ways to interpret this troubling story. Is it a trial of faith, a test? Is God always asking us to offer the best of ourselves every single day? Is God reminding us of the need to sacrifice in our lives? Rabbi Brad Artson, in his book, Passing Life's Tests, Spiritual Reflections on the Trial of Abraham, suggests that life's tests are opportunities to show ourselves capable of rising to a higher standard. I've always questioned whether Abraham should have spoken up in protest. Is the shofar telling us today to raise our voice louder than ever, to protest, to be outspoken? The three shofar notes echo the words of Hillel, the three-part teaching from Pirkei Avot, if I am not for myself, who am I? If I'm only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? Each blast calls upon us to answer these calls. First, for myself, to do tshuva, to improve our ways, to work on ourselves, our relationships, our commitments, and our promises. Second, what am I if I am only for myself? To push ourselves to care for more people, to care for others, and to spread our influence. We can influence this world. We can do good, and we can do more good. Whether it's here in Cleveland, whether it's those recovering from the hurricane in the southeast, or whether it's for Israel. And the final blast is, if not now, when? The shofar urges us to answer the call just like Abraham, Hineni, here I am ready. The shofar reminds us that we are bound together and responsible for each other. Kol Yisrael arevim zeh bazeh. Our Machzor also says the same thing, that we are bound together as one. V'yaseu kulam aguda echad. There's a newly published book that just came out this week called One Day in October, 40 Heroes, 40 Stories. It's written by Yair Agmon and Oria Mevorach. It presents stories of hope, stories of inspiration, of sacrifice and courage from October 7th, told through personal interviews. On this new year, just days before the first anniversary of October 7th, I'd like to share Yossi's story as a shofar call to each and every one of us. Yossi is one of the heroes of October 7th, but I have to pause and warn you that it's a difficult story. It's a painful story, so if you need a moment to tune out or to step out, that's okay. Yossi Landau is in his 50s. He lives in Ashdod, which is south of Tel Aviv, with his family. He has 10 children. He has 22 grandchildren. He is ultra-Orthodox. He is Hasidic. And he's a founding member of an organization called Zakah. Zakah is a volunteer organization that provides disaster, search and rescue, and identification. It serves both Israel and the entire world. Yossi led rescue operations at Ground Zero in New York at 9/11. He led rescue operations in Mumbai, in Haiti, and even last year in Turkey when there was that horrific earthquake Yossi himself personally saved 19 Muslims from Turkey. He is a disaster coordinator for the southern region of Israel. And on the morning of October 7th, he received a frantic call from his supervisor that something terrible was happening. They told him, get in your car. Mind you, this is Shabbat, and he is an ultra-Orthodox Jew. Drive south to the city of Sderot, that same city that you might know for 20 years has undergone rocket attacks from Gaza. That is the city that built the underground playground for children. Fill your car with as much equipment as you can. At some point, as Yossi is driving, he passes an army checkpoint where he is told by the soldiers, if you go any further, it is at your own risk because there are terrorists on the loose. You can only imagine the scene that Yossi describes driving further south and the identification work that he did. He finally arrived at Sderot 4 hours later. As he recalls, quote, we get to a car in the city. There's a couple inside. They both have been killed. We start checking them for signs of life. And we hear a girl crying from inside the car, but we couldn't find her. We couldn't see her. She was hiding. Yossi says to her, we've come to save you. And she asks, are you one of us? Are you one of us? Yossi, the Hasidic Orthodox relief worker, answers yes, but she still couldn't believe him. She asked for him to give her a sign. And so Yossi decided to do this. Yossi began chanting the Shema with tears streaming down his face. Slowly, a small girl crawls out from under the car seat. She falls into his arms. He looks at her. She looks just like one of his granddaughters, and he almost collapses. Yossi worked coordinating volunteer forces until 4:30 in the morning on October 8th, as he says, to honor the memory of 237 holy people that day. He ended his testimonial with this quote, I want to share something I felt today. Those bodies were talking to me. They told me their stories. They told us that we must tell the whole world. So as we approach this first anniversary of October 7th, the shofar calls out to us. The shofar asks us the question of that little scared girl, are you one of us? Are you standing with us? Will you tell the whole world our story? The call of the shofar isn't just the shattering, heartbreaking cry of the shvarim or the trua of that little girl, not the whole strong tekiah of the Jewish people, our hope. We are survivors. We are resilient, and we've seen that so much this past year. The shofar also calls for kindness. Ever since October 7th, Israel and the Jewish world has rallied with kindness by creating lifelines for parents who have left home for reserve duty, farming, volunteers, and so much more. We saw it on our synagogue's mission to Israel, at the Shuva Food Kitchen and Clothing Bank on the road near Gaza, the food pantry where we volunteered together. We gave hugs to hostage families, and we prayed for the return specifically of Eitan and Yair Horn. We met their sister-in-law and learned about two of the sweetest brothers who are still being held in captivity in Gaza. And throughout here in Jewish Cleveland, and with the work of our Cleveland Jewish Federation, we keep hugging. We keep sharing kindness by showing up for each other, holding each other up, and even flying to volunteer in Israel. And you'll see in our gross atrium, in the garden inside, the clay klaniot, the red flowers which we are blooming. Those remember each of those who were slain on October 7th. And the letters that are hanging from the tree, you can write one too. They are letters to the hostages and their families, which we will send directly to them after the holidays. The shofar calls us to bring more light, bring more hope, more acts of kindness by lifting others up, and in that way we instill hope, biyachad, together. When I hear the shofar this year, I hear a roar like a lion, telling me that we can no longer be polite. Our Jewish legal guide, the Shulchan Aruch, our law code, opens with this word, yitkaber ka'ari, that every single morning we are supposed to arise from our beds mighty and courageous like a lion, that we must be filled with purpose and intent in our lives. We can no longer be afraid to share with anyone we meet how we are hurting, that Israel needs our help, that the Jewish community needs their support. Hear the call to be a loud and proud Jew. Do you hear that roar when you hear the shofar? The roaring lioness of Israel, Rachel Goldberg, the mother of American-Israeli hostage Hirsch Goldberg Poland, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory, who was murdered just a month ago. His shloshim was yesterday, as the IDF was so close to bringing him home. Hirsch's parents, John and Rachel, have become our teachers and our guides, our lions, roaring with their incredible strength, their humanity, their courage and honesty, a shofar call to the entire world to bring the hostages home. Rachel shared this message months ago, quote, I once learned that the Jewish vision of hell is that you watch a video of your life and see all the opportunities that you missed. All the times you could have been kind but weren't. All the times you could have been patient but you weren't. All the times you could have been more generous and you weren't. All the times when you could have done the right thing but you didn't. In hell, you see over and over all those missed opportunities, and that is torture enough. You have an opportunity now. Don't miss that opportunity. And that is our message this Rosh Hashanah. That is our call that we hear when we hear the shofar blast. Don't miss our opportunity to be kind, to be patient, to be generous, to always do the right thing, to answer Hineni, here I am ready, to hear the shofar and answer its call as a loud and proud Jew. Am Yisrael Chai, bring the hostages home. Shana Tova Umetuka. May it be a year of health, a year of joy, and a year of peace. Amen.